Combat. The name says it all. I'm Hakeem Branch.
Rob Jarrell.
And today we got some more mailbag questions for you. These came off our Facebook page. We thank you guys for sending these questions in. These two questions are MMA related. So for all you MMA fans, tune in. You'll enjoy this one because you probably wanted these questions yourself. The first question, which won't take as much debate, came from our friend Karsten, who wanted to know our thoughts on a potential George St-Pierre Anderson Silva matchup. Do we think it would happen based on, you know, what's happened in the last few months and how we think that fight would go? He also did drop that his favorite fighter happened to be GSP, which isn't a bad thing to have at all. GSP's a great fighter. But let's get into the question. This match has been rumored for at least the last 3 or 4 years.
That's right.
A lot of people have been wanting it, as well as Anderson Silva versus John Jones. Personally, I don't think any of these fights are going to happen. And this was before all the freakiness that we had over the last year with GSP walking away and Anderson Silva breaking his leg in 2 places. I guess it just wasn't something in Dana White's plans. He didn't want to do it because they kept talking about it. Everybody kept talking about it. The fighters were like, hey, I'll do it. But it just never came into fruition. So unless it happens in another MMA promotion, it's not going to happen. Yeah,
and considering that these 2 fighters, they left at the time that they did. Of course, Anderson Silva was hurt and GSP just left. We kind of don't know their contract situation at this point, because you can retire and come back, but you still have a particular contract that you have to fulfill, especially when it comes to boxing or MMA promotions. And the fact that Anderson Silva hurt his leg, we don't know how he'll come back, how he'll heal, what his mindset. He might want to stay retired. He might just want to retire at that point. Remember, he also wants to have a boxing match with Roy Jones. I think with Anderson,
it's also not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, but I think with Anderson Silva, he would prefer an actual challenge instead of just defending his belt. That's why they were willing to fight each other, because let's face it, they were 1 and 2 in the pound for pound rankings in MMA and the top of their divisions. Why it hasn't happened, of course, that was held back. Trust me, it ain't money, because these dudes are going to bring people to watch or fill up any arena that they go to.
Yeah, that would probably have been the biggest fight in MMA history had it gone down. GSP was the #1 seller in UFC. He was their biggest box office guy. People loved him. He packed out anywhere he fought, especially in Canada. Anderson Silva wasn't as big as far as pay-per-view numbers, but the skills were there. I mean, these were the 2 best guys in the company and probably in all of mixed martial arts up until last year. GSP squeaked by Johnny Hendricks. Anderson Silva lost twice, once by knockout, well, actually twice by knockout, but second was he was stopped. Injury stoppage, but that's still a technical knockout.
That's right.
And he was trying to come back, but I guess the leg wasn't as healed as he thought it was, so he's not coming back this year. So the earliest we'll see him is 2015. And GSP said he's not coming back until the UFC fixes their testing policies, which probably won't happen anytime soon.
So, I mean, this is just a thought of mine. These guys have been at the top of their divisions for, God, what, 3, 4, 5 years? #1 and #2 on a lot of people's lists. Of course, that's probably not that way now, just because one's retired, one's hurt. But this fight is kind of one of those things. You've been with us for so long. You've been extremely loyal for us for so long, and vice versa. Let's just make this fight happen. Why Dana and Zuffa and UFC has not done it is beyond me, because this is kind of the fight where now we can hang our hats to this and just move the hell on. Because there's a lot of guys that's coming up in UFC right now that just need their, like I said, Johnny Hendricks is moving up. I mean, you have Weidman moving up. I know Belfort's been around, but I think this is his time to like really try to shine. It's just a lot of talent out there to keep these two guys just hung up from not giving them the fights that they want.
Yeah. So that's it for that one. Let's move on to our next question, which came from our friend Reese, who wanted to know our thoughts of the best boxers in mixed martial arts. The guys who employ their hands the best. He gave us his list, and now we're going to give you ours. We're going to try and keep it to 5 people.
Yeah, 5 should be enough.
And it's in no particular order because they all shine and did very well, but these are just the 5 that come to mind really fast. I was only partially into UFC when it first came out back in like the early 90s. 1, I was like 10. 2, didn't get a lot of pay-per-view. But going back, it really wasn't a lot of good boxers back then. Now that they're starting to get a lot more well-rounded, I started watching a lot more during the early 2000s. So from that point is where we'll base this.
That's right.
So the first person that I'm going to put on that list would be Anderson Silva. Now, when I first saw Anderson Silva, it wasn't the UFC. It was his debut match against Chris Lieben. And he came out there, hands up high, tight, firing a crisp jab. And I was like, I like this guy. And it was like 7 years later, like we've seen what he can do with his hands.
That's right.
He's lethal with both hands. He can knock you out with his hands down or up.
Or going backwards.
Yeah, or going backwards like he did with Forrest Gump. He was going backwards. That was all wrong. That was not supposed to happen. But his hands were that good that he made it so.
That's right.
Next person that comes to mind is George St-Pierre. George St-Pierre is just like one of the best all-around martial artists in the sport of mixed martial arts. Like, he is what they were thinking of when they came up with mixed martial arts. His boxing is very well rounded. He has a very educated jab. His hook is pretty darn good. His right hand is very accurate. Not a lot of power with it, but the technique is there. That's it for GSP. What you got, Rob?
I know we're going with boxer, single, but I have to go with these as brothers. I love the Diaz brothers. Nick and Nate Diaz are very, to us, underrated boxers, but they definitely can let their hands go.
Yeah, they're very unorthodox strikers. I will give them that.
But I will say that is their bread and butter. I mean,
yes.
They can be high volume. They actually will hit you from very odd angles.
Yeah.
And they're very kind of long, so I mean they have the reach advantage probably the majority of the time. But I do like the Diaz brothers, and not one over the other. I mean, if I had to say, it'd probably be Nate Diaz, but those would be 2 that I would have to keep on the list. I'll probably put them right on the same level.
Yeah. So that's 3. Next up, Chuck Liddell. Now, Chuck Liddell, most of people started seeing him at the end of his career when he was getting knocked out a lot, and that happens when you've been in a sport for a long time.
That's right.
But back in the early 2000s, all the way up till he got beat by Rampage, this man had probably the nastiest hands in mixed martial arts, and that's with Vitor Belfort running around every now and then, and Tito Ortiz. He knocked out Tito Ortiz.
Vicious.
There were some guys with some decent hands, but they were more so of a clubbing, or like Vitor likes to run at you throwing 1-2s. He kind of blitzkrieged you. But Chuck Liddell could set his punches up, and they were lethal. He had a very educated jab. His left hook was devastating, and his right hand was on point as well. And then when he got you hurt, it was a wrap.
Which is weird because he probably has the worst or most unorthodox stance as far as boxing or just in general. You would think as wide as his hands is out here, there's nothing to defend. But when he let him go, that's when you can actually see the technique. But that's neither here nor there either.
Yeah, that's that unorthodox style. It worked for him.
Yeah.
And finally, it's kind of tough to have like that last one. I think I want to go with BJ Penn.
Yes.
BJ Penn is probably one of the other most well-rounded mixed martial artists to compete that we've seen. I mean, this guy could do it all, but we're talking about the hands, which he was extremely accurate with. He could hit you at any angle, and he was a kind of a small guy too, and he competed at 2 weight classes.
Right. One was probably a little too big because I believe he competed at 170, which might have been
right
a little out of his weight class.
But he held his own at 170.
That's right.
And he was up there throwing hands with the best of them. So you got to give him his props for that. Honorable mention, I want to go with Rampage.
That's right.
Rampage has great hands. King Mo has been working a lot with the Mayweathers. His hands have come a long way. Like when he first started in MMA, I've seen just about all his fights. He was almost primarily a wrestler with a little bit of knockout power. Now he's learning how to set it up and really use his hands in a boxing manner that is very accurate, precise, technical, and powerful.
I like Andre Arlovsky.
Yeah, the Pitbull.
He actually has great hands and great technique. If I'm not mistaken, he trains with or has trained with Freddie Roach.
Yeah, so is GSP.
In Wild Card, the only thing is he just didn't have that much of a chin. So
yeah, and so also we gotta play that defense into it. That's why he gets an honorable mention.
Right.
And one to look out for right now is Holly Holm. Holly Holm is a multiple-time boxing world champion who's been competing in MMA. She'll be competing for her first MMA title this Friday at Legacy Fighting Championships. I don't know if you guys get those mid-level cards, but here in America we have it on Access TV. Check your listings to find that. It should be a good one. Her hands are spectacular, and excuse me, her kicks have gotten her some honorable mention as well, because I just showed Rob the one where she knocked out Alana Jones, and it was nasty.
So yeah, I hope she gets over to UFC soon.
Yeah, unfortunately she won't because her manager priced her out, but that's another video. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it for this video. Thanks for the questions to Reese and Karsten. If you guys have any questions, hit us up on our Facebook page, Capital Combat. You can hit us up in our email, capitalcombat@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Google+, Capital Combat again. Make sure you guys like this video. If we used your question, share it with your friends. If you just like the video in general, share it with your friends. That's it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming and cost. My fists are on fire, I perform till I perspire. My demons are in a rage, keep thinking that it's a game. I kick crime, hurricane, I told them I don't play, I'm liquid.
Black Street Fighter.